storage into a marathon runner. But when he first came to Liverpool, he was notable for the speed of short spaces, and that probably hasn't been as obvious over the since he's come back from probably the spring.
From where?
From when he came back in the spring, do we have to is he a different player now because of the injuries, because of the muscle problems he's had? Or do you think he's still as quick as he was? Is that?
Dennis is still a very quick player. There's no doubt about it. But there are a lot of injuries since in the last few years. That's how it is, and a few muscle issues. So that's. I have no idea actually how this exactly changed mind of a player. But when you never had an injury, maybe it's the best thing, and you don't never think about it. So that he's still on the way back, but he is still an outstanding player. And but even an outstanding player needs kind of rhythm. What you could see on Saturday, for example, that's for sure not the best game of Daniel Sturridge since he played football. But even a game like this, he could have scored. So that's another part of the truth. And so I don't compare him with the young, if you want, the younger, because he's still young, the younger Daniel Sturridge. So he's a really good player, and with all you need when he's fit.
Can he play tomorrow night? Is the gap between the games long enough for him, or do you mind him for the weekend?
I didn't make until now decisions, so that's how what I said. We had yesterday a recovery session, no real issues, but then you have to wait for another 24 hours, and then you see how the players feel, and then I make the decision. So for me, it makes absolutely no sense to come here in this room and with a fixed lineup, and then I go back in my office and I have the news on my table and on my desk, and so I have to wait for this, and I will wait for this, and we have enough time to have 2 sessions this afternoon, something like extended recovery session, and then tomorrow morning. Both are important for us to get match fit again for the game. So no decision. We will see.
You said, obviously you're not going to make too many changes. Part of the reason for this also, there's no Europe this year, so it seems like very different. The previous years there was a chance for younger players, but it feels like this competition, I know it's always important, but perhaps even more so with no European football.
It's the third, if you want, official match in the season. Should I think now about what happened the rest of the year? I'm not sure. So it's no. We have. It's not about who can play when. It's the moment when we have to. We want to be. We need to be successful, and we need to get the feeling that the things that our plan works on the pitch, and that we really can get results with this. So how I said, with young players, I think we have a pretty young squad. So it's not we don't have Europe, but hopefully we have all the cup games, if you want, and so then there are enough games for everybody, and so that's not nothing I think in this moment about. It's much too early in the season when I think who can play when. Now is the time for who gives me the biggest opportunity to win the next game, and not giving match time because the other players has too much, or the time for the other players were too intense. Until now, it's not too intense. It's all good. But if we have players which are close and fresh, then I think we should use them. But it's not about age.
You said obviously Divock maybe lacking a bit of rhythm, maybe Daniel as well. Can you give them that rhythm?
No, but not in one game, of course. But even when you have no rhythm, you have to perform. That's how it is. But we spoke about making big steps in development and things. That's the question. And you can make the big steps when your base is good, and then you got something like rhythm. But how we spoke about then, it's not about in football. I cannot give this player 10 games and then the other player not a lack of rhythm, they have no rhythm. So that's not how it works. So we need the training time, we need the games, we need all that stuff together to make the next step, if you want, in development. But that's how it is at the end. They are all good enough to perform in the moment, but it was about development. And then for this, it would make sense if you compare last year and this year, then it's about rhythm.
They play together?
They played in, I'm sure, in Southampton together. That was not too bad. When I remember, it was the same competition. I love this game, actually. So yes, obviously I can play together.
Yeah, I was just going to pick up on the point that Chris was making. The fact that you don't have Europe this year, does this competition take the importance that you would place on Europe? Because it's an opportunity.
Did you have the feeling last year when we played Capital One Cup that we don't have ambition?
No.
So that's okay. How can we have more than 100%? How can we be more than 100% ambitious? So of course this is not. We cannot replace European football. We want to be as successful as possible, and when we say we want to go for everything, we want to fight for everything, then of course Capital One Cup is involved. And last year when the final, that was nice, and the result was not too nice. But for all Liverpool supporters, it was a nice game until the final whistle, if you want, after a penalty shoot. So that's the truth. And so we are professionals, and it's the next opportunity for us to get a result, even when it's not in for the table, but it's then for this. What I want to say, it's not about being not in Europe that Capital One Cup is important. It's important. More than 100% important is, in my opinion, not possible.
Do you think you want to go from one extreme to another? Do you last year it's ridiculous the amount of games, like 60-odd games? You don't want to go from that to like being, you go to this.
We have to take what we get. If we go through next round, we will not stop. If we go out, we will not stop. So that's how it's not. We cannot wish like at Christmas and say, okay, now this year we have time, so let us go to all finals in Capital One and FA Cup, because for the other teams it's too much actually. So let's go there. That's not how it works. So I know ourselves. Meanwhile, I would say we have never shown a lack of respect for one tournament, and I think that's for sure we should show again. And there are more easier draws, and I don't know exactly who plays against who, but. Burton is quite ambitious, and how I said, for them it's a big game in the last Capital One Cup. I'm not 100% sure about the rules. I don't know when they joined. It's last round, their first round?
Yes, they did.
Okay. So they made 9 changes. I don't know if they do it again. I don't think so, but they made it. So, and now that's all. So we prepare as good as we can, and then we want to win. And this tournament is for sensations, if you want. First round out here, then it's big trouble or whatever. You go through, then it's normal, and you can not use it for the Tottenham game. That's our life, but because it was only Burton then. So that's our life. And in this moment, I'm really optimistic when we will find a really good lineup, and then we have to perform. That's how it is. We have always this kind of pressure. So that's not new. But it's still early in the season, and if I would make final judgments now about this or yes, and you always want to win. I always want to win. That the Sunday is 800,000% better when you won on Saturday. So there's no bigger difference. There's no bigger difference. So now we came through this Sunday somehow, and now it's Monday again, and we can play on Tuesday. So all good. Let's go for it.
Question,
You say you don't know exactly how the injuries change the mind of the player, but clearly with some players, and perhaps with Danny York, for instance, it does have an effect in coming back. Is there anything you can do to help with that process of having that belief again, that 100% kind of faith that then?
No, always a little bit, but of course not. As a manager, you have to accept that that's really rare that you can say 100% what a player want to hear. So that's how it is. Most of the time when it's very positive, then you should not say all the positive things, because you're not sure how he can handle this. And when it's very negative, you don't want to say all the negative things. And if the player doesn't feel too good and you want to help him that he can feel better, then it's about, in a talk like this, the thing a player want to hear, do this, and then you will play 100%. Yeah. I cannot say this to no player, because there are a lot of other things who have influence on lineup and things like this. But of course, what I can promise and what always happened, who stays in the race, who is concentrated, who works really hard, will get the benefit of it. That's how it is. But of course, the time until you get a benefit of it, it's sometimes a little bit harder and sometimes not so hard. But that's for all of us the same. So yeah, it's not too cool, but there are bigger problems in life than having a period in football, in a football career, where you don't play. When you watch back on a career, and the only time you remember this was the time when you didn't play, that was a really poor career, and I'm pretty sure these guys all will have another career. So at the end, all will be good, but now for one or the other, it might be a little bit harder. But it's not too hard for sure.
Guys, thank you very much. Thank you.
Welcome. See you.